When you go to police, you'll find that young people are much there. Okay, they interface frequently with the police. They interface frequently with the judges. They interface frequently with generally, it's the young people that interface much with the people. So now we are saying, how can young people be involved in the anti-corruption discussion?
You guys are youth. We are told that we're poor, we don't have money, unemployment level is up to 76%, and I'm saying that it's putting us in a very vulnerable state where we are able to actually pay corruption to get a job, where we're able to, as if to call someone, and go in the back and to talk nicely or bribe. How are youth able to emulate themselves from this?
That's why I think that's why now LapsNet is coming up with the alternatives. That's why yesterday we launched a report, LapsNet report that the ED is going to talk about. We are now trying to look at how the young people can really be engaged, because now in most cases, as you put it very rightly, we are vulnerable. We don't want to be involved in anti-corruption talk. We are just there. We are left out. So now we are saying, as activists, as LapsNet, and so we are saying, how can we, as young people, come out of that? Okay, we are not saying all this because now the young people are vulnerable, but now we are saying, as vulnerable as you are, as poor as you are, why should you give your 50,000? Why should you give your 10,000 to a policeman, or else to a judge, to a magistrate? For what? And yet you have that right, you have the right. Why should you do that? So now we are saying, we are creating that awareness to the vulnerable population, that is the young people, that they have that right, okay? They are not to be used. Because now you are poor, you are supposed to be used. No, you have that right.
Sylvia.
Yes.
Why now? Why are we all of a sudden fighting against corruption? And why is that LapsNet coming up now in 2018 as it is ending to fight against corruption? We
actually have not come out in 2018. The kind of project we are doing began way back in 2016. Okay. And it's a complementary project to the justice, law and order sector, fight against corruption. So we are working closely with the institutions of jails, that is police, prisons, Office of the Directorate of Public Prosecution, the police, and we are saying we need to support you.
Does jails involve Uganda Law Society and LapsNet?
Yes, LapsNet is a civil society organization that complements the work of government, because we are involved in access to justice. And as a result of being involved in access to justice, we handle poor and vulnerable people, the marginalized. So as we are providing free legal aid to the people through our members, we realize that we meet this stumbling block, the bottleneck. So as an advocacy organization and as a lobby organization that does research, we use evidence-based research to try and bring out the issues affecting access to justice, and therefore corruption monitoring is part of it. Why the youth? You must realize, and that's where we need to understand now, that the youth now form the majority of Ugandans, 78%. Actually now the population in Uganda is made up of youth. So we are speaking about Ugandans. And therefore,
several Ugandans,
yes, several Ugandans. And therefore, if we have to address the issue of corruption, we have to break the silence. Because many times we have been on the supply side, and that is the service provider. They are corrupt. They should be punished. But also we know that the demand side, the participating, the community also works in terms of corrupting these systems and participating. So this project is more of a people involvement participation process where we want the youth, especially the youth that access justice, to also begin to break the silence, in addition to another program of the general public. But the segment of the youth is that usually when the justice and order sector is planning, there are certain cohorts or clusters that are left and they're not paid attention to. So in other words, we are just reawakening ourselves and saying, look here, the biggest users of the justice system are the youth. 63% of people in prisons, according to the findings, are youth. And therefore, as they go through the justice system, one of the bottleneck is failure to afford services and the cost involved and this corruption cost.
Where do you get money?
Where do we get money? From the Democratic Governance Facility.
Okay.
And this particular project of Set Up is funded by the U.S. Embassy.
We'll be talking about Set Up, and the app was talked about by Andrew Chamage right there.
Yes.
But Yasin,
yes.
What gaps can the youth fill to fight corruption? Because it feels like the guys up there, Museveni has talked about corruption. We need to fight corruption. What gaps are the youth feeling? What are the youth doing to fight corruption?
The truth here is there is need, first of all, there is need for the grassroots youth to understand that they are involved in the fight of corruption.
Yes, and that they are able to actually fight corruption.
Exactly. Because one is they need to be empowered. They need to know the laws.
Yes.
They need to understand that they have that right to participate in the fight against corruption. Okay? And good enough you brought the issue of the Say It app.
Yes.
The Say It app that was developed by LapsNet is actually a very good app for a young person to report corruption cases very easily. Okay? As a young person, because I believe most of them now fear, sometimes most of them fear to report some of these corruption cases to police or to IGG and so forth. But now the app is a simple application for a young person to now report, because using the app itself, you can report as a nobody. Okay,
yes, yes.
You don't need to write your name. You don't need to say that Yasin is the one reporting this, because this is what they fear. This is what the young people mostly fear.
So the app is anonymous.
Yes,
exactly.
when you choose to. If you choose to identify yourself, you can even put there and say, my number is this. But if you choose to be anonymous, you say, I'm in a particular place, I'm in Kawempe. Right now, I've been stopped by the traffic officer, and he has asked me for a bribe. You send the audio. So the police standards unit has a responsibility to follow up that matter.
Do police ask for bribes? Or it's a quick way, it's a quick fix to get out of these problems? Because, I mean, if a policeman stops me, I will quickly look through my wallet and say, I have a 10K, I have a 20K. If the guy has a sheet of paper that has 200K, I don't have to pay the fine.
Now this
because I don't have the money. I can't
yes, and that is the behavior change that we have to change.
Yeah.
The attitude that you cannot get a service without bribing a police officer. The attitude that you can float the rules and be able to get away with it. So both the giver and the one who is receiving have an issue to blame. Because me who is receiving, I should say no. I'm telling you, you have broken the law, and as a result, you pay the fine, or I take you to the courts of law. But the moment they give them, they will forward. And take out.
Exactly,
and sometimes also the conduct, the mannerism, will always insinuate that until you
like
see,
to be friendly.
No
so
way, you can tell a menacing kind of approach where now the person who has been stopped, we know her, now this man is looking for something. They will turn around. I'm going to write. You know, madam, I'm writing. The fine is 600. Should I write? And they are not writing. So as a result, you know this person is speaking.
I'm going to write.
Exactly.
If I don't, you know the repercussions of me writing.
Exactly. So then the young person or the person caught up in that scenario will be prompted to pull out the 20. But that 20 means a lot for a taxi driver. Because probably that was his profit of the day, and he has parted with it. So that also increases vulnerability, it increases poverty. So the issue here is to break the silence and to say no to corruption. Let us try to follow the rules, that when I'm in court in the wrong, I'll either say apologize, and the other gentleman cautions me depending on the crime I have committed.
Now talking about the rules, youth don't know the law.
Yes.
Lawyers are expensive.
Exactly, and that is what the research is talking about.
Law school is expensive.
Very expensive, and you can even fail. There's no guarantee.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Law Development Center. Over 80% failed.
Yes.
Which column here? How did you pass law school?
For us, we really studied. And at that time, we are not as many. We are about 60 that went to Law Development Center at my time. And there was a lot of quality assurance and processes. And you know, at that time, money could not take you to law school. It was your passing that could take you to law school. You get government sponsorship. Or at least if you must have passed, or you must have gone through the Law Development Center, done a diploma, and then you go first class. So at that that time, there was a lot of quality. But this time, I want to be wrong.
Yes,
self-actualization. Exactly. I have the money. I think I can be a lawyer. Yes. I can try it.
How do we teach the youth the law?
Okay, and this is what the network is doing. And this is what we are telling even government. That we need to empower the person at the grassroots to know the law. Yeah. If lawyers cannot train the grassroots in law, we have what we call paralegals. And these paralegals are part of the community. Okay. They can be youth, they can be change makers, they can be human rights volunteers, and they can educate and give simple information and IC materials. Yeah. This is already being done within our members, but you know sustainability, where it is a non-state actor giving the service, is not sufficient. So when we call upon government to say we need a comprehensive national guidance scheme that is intended to inform at the lowest level paralegals, but also lawyers, a public defense office, where those who cannot afford can come into the public defense office. But in this research, for example, we are saying the youth don't understand the technicalities. The language itself of the law is a barrier. The corruption tendencies. So we need to create this customer desks within the courtrooms, within the police, so that when the youth come, they find child-friendly information, and they can be sensitized. Simply that today you have come to court, and this is the expectation. This is what you will go through. You appear before the court, the charges will be read to you, and if you have sureties of people, your parents who can stand for you, you will be released. If you don't, they're going to take you to court to remand, and after 2 weeks, you should be able to come back to answer your charges. So this customer care is a very important thing. If we approach law as business, if we approach the law as a human rights, where people are treated with dignity, and they come in and they're not treated brutally, then we shall be going towards improving these services. If we use the fellow youth, for example, and they're the ones to receive. You know, when I walked in here at NTV, you always get people who smile and receive.
Exactly.
And you feel at home. Exactly. You feel at home. But when you enter into court, for example, police, the first thing, what have you done?
Yes,
you were a thief. You know, a young man is already disoriented by the virtue of being received. You go to court, the court clerk is very busy with the file moving. Very few points have service points where you have customer care. And even when you have them, are they smiling? Do they receive people with smiles? Or they think whoever walks in a court has a matter, is a criminal, is a suspect, you know, that attitude that is grooming, that youth don't learn. Youth, they have a language. There's a way they speak to each other. So we are trying to say that now the majority of the people coming into this system, whether suspects or civil litigants, they are youth. And they are used to a different kind of language.
Have you seen the police of today? They are youth, they are young people.
But they have been, the way our society, you know, train a child in the way you want them to be, and when they grow, they will not depart. Also, a society is reflected. It is a keen reflection of who we are. If right from home we are brutalized, school, and everything, don't think they will come out a better employee in a police. If a police officer sleeps in a very bad environment, they don't have what to eat, they're not given sufficient to their welfare, don't expect them to wake up in the morning and they receive this youth who is being rounded up, probably gambling, they are brought behind the pickup, they are even maybe having wounds, and you think this police officer will receive this person with a smile. We have to do an overhaul of the service delivery system. From the service point, people have to be catered for. From the demand side, people have to be catered for. So that the whole society comes out much better. And that is why it is very important that we don't speak to one side, but we also speak to the whole structure of providing access to justice. Yes.
How do we make corruption costly for those that do it?
Okay. First of all, we have the laws, but they are not implemented.
But do they work exactly?
Exactly.
So how do we make it very hard?
And we have a tendency of saying we are all corrupt. But then when we happen to get the one who is corrupt, what kind of offense do we have? Do we prosecute them to the latter?
Do we?
And when we prosecute them, what kind of sentences do we hand them down? What kind of recovery processes that we know that even if I accumulate billions and empires, at some point in time they are going to be taken back by the government of Uganda. So we should not say everyone is corrupt. When we get those areas, we should be able to have both the carrot and the stick. When people are caught and they are taking bribes and we report.
Do the courts of law work for especially the corrupt? Because the corrupt sometimes have money,
Exactly, the cycle continues.
Yes.
The cycle continues. But also the corruption courts should be much better facilitated.
Yeah.
The office of the IGG should be given sufficient resources to investigate and to prosecute.
But in Uganda, clearly now, the office of the IGG is like an assistant of the...
Of course, we have made it to be.
Yeah.
If we don't empower the office.
Yeah, we are not empowering. What we're doing actually is creating other people to do their work.
Exactly, and this duplication is not going to solve a problem. We have to have a stand. But also we need to know that it starts from the roots.
Yeah.
We have to go back to the basics, the parenting. The parenting in the homes. How are we training our children around the issues of behavior change, morality? I can give you an example, and I always give it as myself and the school I came from. We had a school motto which said, dare to be true.
What school is that?
It is back in Masaka, a very good mission-founded school. It's founded by whites. But dare to be true, we went with it in all our whatever we are doing in the schools, and it has followed up. I can assure even today as I sit in the office, that motto keeps coming.
Dare to be true.
If I'm about to do something that is not right, it keeps on coming. So at home, I'm given the right information with my parents. In the school where I'm passing through, I'm given the right information. So when I become employed, it is very important that the beginning is very grounded. But currently today, schools are allowing children to campaign to be prefects, and they are allowing them to give incentives to their colleagues to vote them. They will go through that, they will go through university, they will do the same thing, they will go to parliament. When they want to go to parliament, and they will do the same thing, and the cycle will continue. Then schools, you find that there is a lot of copying going on. Exams, you are giving a student answers
leeway to
and they are passing, and that's why you are asking the failure rates. They go through and trickle up to the professional level. They will go to Makerere University and they have secretarial bureaus. All that is corruption, which are writing their dissertations.
So how do we create quality youth that don't steal, that speak the truth, that don't pay bribes? If they are in wrong, they actually go through the process of the courts of law. How do we train our youth to be right and to do right?
We have to start from home. We have to tell our children what is right and what is wrong. It has to continue through the school behavior. The teachers, they should live up to what is expected. Professionalism and ethics. It has to go to the university level and within the employment. Even at the employment, where you have staff that have a tendency of fraud, they have a tendency of being untruthful, we should be able to take measures as within the Employment Act, such that when we bite at school, we bite at institutions, and we bite at the office level and at the government level where the laws are being enforced. You know, there is this moral upbringing, but also we have the law, and the laws are made for people. And it's because society cannot live to the, you know, unless society is kind of, what can I say, unless society is made to follow rules and regulations, and the rules and regulations are implemented. Some people never learn until they are punished.
Tell us about the new anti-corruption unit at State House. What is it? Some of us have looked at it and like, this is a duplication of roles. Some of us look at it and say, aren't these Museveni friends? Some of us look at this and say, they're undermining the IGG. Some of us look at this and say, no more government, things are happening normally. Tell us about what their role is. Are they going to improve anything to do with corruption? Are they doing any better to help Ugandans do better and run away from corruption?
I think the appointing authority knows better why that was set up, but from what I heard, because I was there at Kololo when His Excellency was speaking, he said this is more of a complementary to the office of the IGG. In other words, it's going to be like a channel of whistleblowing, where people easily report, and then that office works closely with the IGG. As to whether it will work, it is another thing.
Or not.
That, in my view, rather than establishing parallels, it would have been good to strengthen the office of the IGG and look at it. Does it need overhaul? Does it need restructuring? Does it need more investigators, secured? Does it need more equipment? Is it the one that needs this toll-free line? And if it will receive toll-free line, do you have people receiving and taking this information and saving it, so that they are seen to be more stronger than being, you know, kind of reduced to say they will be supported by all these others. Remember, all these are resources. resources being duplicated, and as a result, we are approaching a problem in a kind of a disjointed kind of manner, and as a result, the problem will continue. Yeah. Because we've seen it with courts of law, where we have the execution, the police vetting court orders. We are seeing RDCs also handling land matters. So there is a lot of duplication and forum shopping. And the moment there is forum shopping, people will rotate in circles. And as a result, justice will not be done. It will be seem to be like being done, but at the end of the day, we shall not achieve what we want. But the most important thing is that we have to develop the will of zero tolerance to corruption. And the youth should be educated and given the moral support to understand that corruption is deadly. And if you continue to practice corruption, there is no future. A country will go to the dogs. And as a result, by the time your children came, and your own children, you have nothing to depend on. Once they get that message continuously, probably we shall get there.
Now, Last Minute has a report here, and you released this report yesterday. Access to justice needs for youth in Uganda.
Yes.
And you're pointing out vulnerability, poverty, and corruption hindrances.
Yes.
And you're saying that vulnerability, poverty, are the corruption hindrances. Why?
Vulnerability. You know, when someone is vulnerable, that person needs a lot of support. And vulnerability manifests in social, economic, and political. And then when you see someone is poor, as you've heard, when you are poor, you cannot access services. You don't have health services, you don't have all the others, will be a luxury. So law becomes a luxury for youth who needs to survive. Corruption, I've already told you, that is the cost of the process. So we termed all the findings into that component. But when I go into to break down the findings, we see youth who are involved in access to justice as youth in conflict with the law. Those are suspects. Youth that are victims, the SGBV related matters, in the youth that are in civil matters, including even land disputes. So these youth, when they go to courts of law, like I've said, they have to have legal services. Ignorance of law is not defense. But you cannot articulate the law and interpret it if you did not take time to read it. You only know the basics, that I'm entitled to bail, that I need the surety, that maybe my case will be had like this. But when it comes to interpreting the evidence that has been brought up against you vis-a-vis the law, you need an expert. And that expert is the person who has been trained as a lawyer. If the youth cannot afford to eat, if the youth cannot afford a small business, there's no way youth is going to pay 10% of a subject matter to go to court. So it's very costly for the youth to get services of a lawyer, except in capital matters where the state provides. But even when the state provides, it's no guarantee that we'll get quality services. So you find that 63% of the youth in prisons cannot be able to go to court. They will have case delay. And the youthful years are spent in prison. If it is a capital offense, the least a youth can stay in prison is 5 years.
5 years?
Yes, because you have this component of the next convenient high court session for trial. You are committed to the next convenient high court session. In this year and age, where we know that the majority of the people who are in prisons are youth, do we still need those kind of procedures?
Yes, exactly.
Next convenient high court session, it means when I go in when I'm 18, I'm likely to come out when I'm in 30. That is if I'm innocent. 10 years lost of my full productivity. So that is the issue. The cost of justice, the backlog, and many more.
Now, Yasin, Last Minute is doing things. ULS has a pro bono office. Do you think that the youth are being helped with these projects and programs that are coming up? Do you see it happening?
Yes, I see it happening.
Is it a reality?
Yes, it's a reality, more especially for me. As you have seen, it has really transformed me. The project has really transformed me because we started this project last year in the months of Feb. Immediately when we started it, and we were trained actually. I was part of the empowering team of
How many were you?
We were around 60, and out of the 60, we went out because now we are from different districts. Me, I came from West Nile, Arua district particularly, and when I went back, I had to come up with a chapter, with a sub-chapter called Youth Against Corruption Arua chapter that advocates and also monitors corruption issues within the district. Okay. So I see it as I said, it works because, one, there are so many corruption cases that were reported using the Say It app. I see young people now coming up, because before we used to fear, young people used to fear so much that if I report, the big fishes are going to do this to me. The big fishes, I think you know, when I talk about the big fishes, people normal, those are people that people fear. Young people fear so much by saying, maybe if I report this such a person, he is going to do this or she is going to do this to me. But now, after getting this empowerment, after knowing what exactly I as a youth is to do, then I'm now here. I'm doing the right thing on when it comes to corruption cases. But now, after now learning much of the some of these things, now we create awareness. As a young person also, I have to create awareness, meaning that I have to take this now back to the young people down there to understand their role. All I say is this project is really working, and it's doing great.
Cool. Now, we are told that you guys are funded by government. Mbu.
By government?
Mbu.
Okay.
Mbu.
To do? To do what?
To do money, to get salary, to eat, to feed, to have a place you can rent here in Kampala.
Yes.
And so that means that you guys can't fight corruption effectively because you don't have the moral authority, or you can't bite the hand that feeds you.
I have to put the records clearly. LastMate has been funded since its inception. It was conceived in 2004 and registered as a non-government organization. It has been funded by the Democratic Governance Facility that started as a Legacy Basket Fund. It is a donor-funded European countries bringing together their resources and funding LastMate and many of its members, Legacy service providers. This particular project, transparency and accountability, empowering the youth to report corruption, is being funded by the US project, and it began last year in December. So it has run through this year. Government of Uganda, I have never received funds as LastMate from the government of Uganda, except I think Uganda Law Society does get from Justice Land Order sector. But we work closely with the government of Uganda because our role is to complement, and even the constitution says it, that government of Uganda should recognize the role of non-government organization under objective, which I don't remember, the role of non-government organization, and ensure their independence to advise government. So what we do is advisory, and that what the reports we prepare based on how we approach them, because our approach, for example, as LastMate, is not to fault find but to strengthen.
Do these reports work?
They do work. Last year we released a report on the drivers and impact of corruption, causes social and economic, and we gave recommendations that the Justice and Order sector is reviewing to see how best they can advocate to ensure that recently we shared reports, and we call them confidential reports, to these institutions. They have, we kind of name and shame, but also we complement the good practices. And I can assure you,
you actually do it, you name and shame.
Yes, we name and shame the people that we have seen with our whistleblowers, and we share with the Justice and Other institutions, copying the IGG, copying the Judicial Service Commission, if it is the judiciary. I can assure you the Chief Justice has read those reports.
Big fish, small fish syndrome. You guys can't do anything. Well, I mean, there's talk around town.
No.
If someone is a minister and they are bribed off, you can't do anything.
I have told you, our monitoring is within our sector. We don't go political. We monitor the institutions we work with. Police, court, DPP, and the reports we have given, the DPP, for example, has already begun investigations of the reports we have given concerning the attorneys that have been considered to have been involved in unprofessional conduct. The judiciary and the Judicial Service Commission have already begun investigations of those particular cases that we have provided. The Chief Justice the other day had a conference of all magistrates from all over Uganda, and he called us specifically to come and speak about that particular issue, those issues, and highlight them. He himself read the report, much as it did not go to him directly. So we think slowly by slowly and working together, like we said, we are contributing. We cannot eradicate. We are contributing, and we are using the powers and mandate we have. That is empowerment and whistleblowing. And we see how these institutions are going to react, but we think we are progressing.
Awesome. We have had Yasin Drate. What's your name actually? Drate or Dret?
He loves the name.
Drate. We have had Yasin Drate here, a youth activist from LASPNet, and of course the ED of LASPNet, Sylvia Namiri. Thanks so much for coming through to talk about corruption and the youth and sensitizing the youth. We need youth to learn the law. Don't spend your time on WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, attending events. If you're on your vacation right now, invest some time in knowing the law. What is it? The things that you're going to study about. How does government work? How do the courts of law work? My friend, knowledge is power.
Yes.
And so study, read broadly, because I mean that's a way to, you know, to even break this poverty that we're in. If you know something, you will be a better citizen.
Yes.
You will know how to treat things better, how to treat businesses better, how to treat your parents. If you know, you will always survive. And that is Morning at NTV. Mwazo Mtia is coming up next after Morning at NTV. Nkoredon is my name. Good morning.
Watching Morning at NTV.